friend like the lonely Jesus. No, not one. No, not one. None else could heal all our souls' diseases. No, not one. No, not one. You know that Jesus knows all about our struggles. He will guide till the day is done. You know that there's not a friend like the lonely Jesus. Singing, there's no, not one. No, not one. No friend like him is so high and lowly. Singing, there's no, not one. No, not one. And yet no friend is so meek and lowly. No, not one. No, not one. You know that Jesus knows all about our struggles. He will guide till the day is done. You know that there's not a friend like the lonely Jesus. Singing, there's no, not one. No, not one. There's not an hour that he is not near us. No, not one. No, not one. No night so dark, but his love can cheer us. Singing, there's no, not one. You know there's no, not one. You know that Jesus knows all about our struggles. He will guide till the day is done. You know that there's not a friend like the lonely Jesus. Singing, there's no, not one. No, not one. Time. Good evening, church. That's a little bit better. That's a little bit better. We welcome you. For all those who are with us in person, it's good to see you all. And for those, as mentioned, who are joining us via YouTube and Facebook, it is certainly good to have you with us as well. God is blessed to see yet another day of which we don't take it for granted. At least I don't take it for granted. I'm speaking on that for you guys as well. I assume that I'm speaking the truth when I say that we don't take it for granted when God blesses us to see another day and he gives us a reasonable portion of health and strength. I'm standing before you on behalf of Brother Michael Graves, who was scheduled to teach on tonight. And it was brought to my attention that Brother Graves had a procedure, I guess more or less an emergency procedure, that he had to go to the hospital today and have something done. I don't know the full details of it beyond that, and therefore I'm going to ask that you all keep our brother in prayer, that he have hopefully what the procedure was, everything was successful, and more so that he have a speedy recovery to be able to return back here to the household of faith. I have a lesson that I have prepared for tonight, and it spawns from the book of Isaiah. I just want to do a little bit of reading in order to get a foundation of the lesson that we want to discuss on tonight. Isaiah chapter 30, verse 18. If you will turn there with me. Isaiah 30, verse 18. And it reads as follows. It says, "And therefore will the Lord wait, that he may be gracious unto you, and therefore will he be exalted, that he may have mercy upon you. For the Lord is a God of judgment. Blessed are all they that wait for him. Blessed are all they that wait for him. And from that scripture text, I gather my topic for this Bible study on this evening, entitled Waiting on the Lord. Waiting on the Lord. And it's something that, I talked about a number of times, and I often meditate and study upon waiting on the Lord just for a better perspective on things in general, just to help myself. And I've come in my various studies with this particular topic, I've come to understand a number of different things and learn a number of different things that I want to try to share with you. You probably know a few of them, but I think it's worth us having a Bible study to getting a better understanding of this, waiting on the Lord. And I started out with a question. My question is, how do you wait on the Lord? How do you wait on the Lord? And I'm curious to get some feedback from you guys in reference to that. George, if you don't mind helping me out with this microphone. If there's any questions, you can pass it around to them. But the question is, we often hear the terminology, waiting on the Lord. You just need to wait on the Lord. I'm just waiting on the Lord. And my question is, and I know it's an early thought-provoking question that I'm throwing out real early, but if you have a comment on that, I'm curious to that, and I'm interested in that. But how do you wait on the Lord? How do we wait on the Lord? Anybody want to give me some feedback on that? Over here.
Through prayer.
Through prayer, we wait on the Lord. Okay. Through prayer. Anyone else?
Like he said, through prayer and being still and studying.
And studying. Through prayer and studying, we wait on the Lord. Okay. I have a hand over here? She stole your answer? Yeah. Okay. Through prayer. So we got through prayer. You have a hand over? No. Through prayer and through studying, we wait on the Lord. And again, in Isaiah, what we just read, it ends with blessed are they that wait on him. And we know that through this scripture text and a number of other texts that we're going to get into, it gives us emphasis on the benefit of waiting on the Lord. And we know that there's blessings, as we see here. He's saying, blessed are they that wait on the Lord. So there's some blessings that's tied to, or that we receive as a result of us waiting on the Lord. There's some things that we get as a result, and we're going to get into it, as a result of waiting on the Lord. But it often ties back to the question of, how do we wait on the Lord? It's like someone saying, hey, if you did this big thing, that you'll get this great prize. And the question is, all right, well, how do I do this big thing? What's required of me when it comes to doing this big thing to make sure that I'm qualified for this prize that's there? So we want to get into that. The first thing that comes to mind when we hear the word wait, to me, is it reminds me of trying to get into a popular restaurant, right? And I often use this analogy that when you get into you go to a restaurant and you have a waiter and a waitress that's waiting on you, that's giving you some type of service. And their overall job of a waiter or waitress is to serve you, is to make sure that you are getting the fulfillment of your overall service that you're requiring or expecting to get back from them. And as a result of them doing their job, which is waiting on you, they receive a reward, which is what? What is a waiter or waitress reward? A tip, right? And typically we weigh the balance of our tip based upon the service that they provide for us. If they do a good job waiting on us, they typically get a better or bigger tip. If they do a bad job waiting on us, they normally get a small tip, or in some cases, and I don't agree with this, no tip based upon the service that's there. So we kind of correlate. We often correlate, okay, waiting as a service. And sometimes a lot of people have been under misunderstanding of thinking waiting was the literal sense of waiting, meaning, no, I'm going to just stay here and do nothing and wait for the Lord to to do what I'm hoping that he would do and I'm asking for him to do, and not doing nothing at all. And I start by saying that that's not it. That's not the waiting that you should be correlating for. And we're going to get into that. I have a question over here. All right.
Yeah, what I would say, you have to have a patience to wait on the Lord. Mm-hmm. If you don't have patience, you can never wait.
Patience in your waiting, right? Absolutely. And we certainly will get into the patient aspect of that as well. The world sort of, has been paralyzed for a number of years, over the past 2 years with the pandemic, because they were just paralyzed, just saying, hey, I'm just waiting for this pandemic to pass. So I'm not going to do nothing. I'm just going to wait. I'm just going to hunker down and wait. And again, that's not, as Christians, that's not the wait that we are supposed to be doing. That's not the type of waiting that we're supposed to be doing. When the Bible speaks of waiting, it's entirely different of doing nothing, standing still, and waiting and not doing anything. It's a servicing aspect that we have to keep in mind that we need to be doing. And as a result of the servicing, waiting aspect, we will be blessed. Like Isaiah just said, blessed are they that wait on him. In other words, blessed are those who are doing the service of waiting. Not the stand still, to do nothing aspect of waiting, but the service of waiting on him, and he and we shall be blessed as a result of that. Thus, waiting upon God is a spiritual discipline that we should seek to practice in our lives. Let me repeat that again. Waiting on the Lord is a spiritual discipline that we must practice in our lives. And the discipline is a process of certain things that we're going to get into that you must be doing in the waiting process. The discipline. Now, when you're disciplined in doing something, you're consistently doing it, right? You're doing it, regardless sometimes of the weather, regardless of the circumstances, regardless of how you feel. I try to be disciplined in my workout process in reference to getting up in the morning, going to work out, going to the gym and doing certain things in that process. And sometimes it might be too cold, but I'm still disciplined in trying to get it done. Sometimes it can be too hot. Sometimes the situation just kind of is off balance, but I try to be disciplined. Therefore, similar to our waiting process should be disciplined to the point where it's consistent throughout. Meaning we should not stop waiting or serving the Lord based upon the overall circumstances that come to us. Let me repeat that again. We should not stop waiting and serving on the Lord in terms of serving the Lord based upon the situation and the circumstances that happen. It's funny because a lot of people sort of turn to the waiting process when situations happen. I'm just waiting on the Lord to come and fix this situation. Well, let me share this with you. Waiting should be, actually, I'm going to throw it in the form of another question. When should we wait on the Lord? When should we wait on the Lord? Come on, Brother Johnson, right here.
They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint. So if you're not at the strongest point, or whatever else, obviously he said, renew your strength. You know what I mean? So there is a point for waiting in those types of situations. But in reference to the context of what you were referring, there's another kind of waiting. Mm-hmm.
But the question is, let me keep it right there, brother. When should we wait on the Lord? When should we wait on the Lord?
When you need it. When you can't figure out which way to go, how to handle this situation, this is the time when you're looking for God to help you to get through, to make the right choice and the right decision.
And when is,
the right road.
And when is that?
When is that?
It's not a trick question.
If you're studying God's word, then you, in fact, God may guide you to something that you didn't already know that will give you an idea to help you with the direction to go in.
Which is 100% true. But let me answer this. To answer my question a little bit. Yes, George, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say all day, every day.
There you go. It's that simple. It's that simple. Right. It's that simple. And a lot of times we don't think about that. Waiting on the Lord is consistent. Every day we are waiting on and should be waiting on the Lord. Let me repeat that. Every day we should be waiting on the Lord. Why? Because in Isaiah said, blessed are all they that wait on the Lord. When do you want your blessings to stop? No. Right? Do you want your blessings to stop? If you want your blessings to stop waiting on the Lord. At the point when we stop waiting on the Lord is the point where our blessings can be cut off or may be cut off. And a lot of times, and when we hear this, wait on the Lord, those that wait on the Lord, they shall, as Brother Johnson mentioned, shall renew their strength. They shall mount up like eagles and so on and so forth. He's saying if you continuously wait on the Lord, guess what? You will continuously have strength. You will continuously be able to mount up your wings. You will continuously be able to walk and not faint. So the waiting process should not be circumstantial. Should not be in your mind, I should say. It shouldn't be, hey, I'm going through this situation right now, so I'm just going to wait on the Lord. No, you should have been waiting on the Lord before that situation happened. You should have been waiting on the Lord. When the going is good, you should be waiting on the Lord. When the situations is dire, you should have already been waiting on the Lord. When things are mediocre, you should have been waiting on the Lord. Waiting on the Lord is a consistent process. Again, referencing the waiter and the waitress. If they're not consistently waiting on you, right? Consistently coming back. What do they, just give you an example. You walk in there, waiter, how can I help you? All right, here's the menu, I'll be back. And they come back and, do you want some water? Are you ready to take your order? What happens when you sit there for a long period of time, you see that waiter over there, doing everything but what they're supposed to be doing for you, waiting half an hour to come back and ask you if you want to take your order. What happens? You get upset because they're not waiting. They're not servicing you. How do you think the Lord feels when you're not, waiting on him? When you're doing everything but waiting on him? When you're not doing your job for him? He feels the same way about us, that we feel about that waiter or waitress when they're not serving us and waiting on us. So the waiting process is a continuous process. A good waiter and a good waitress is rewarded heavily based upon the service that they do. And it's no different than we as Christians. When we wait on the Lord the right way, there's blessings in there. And there's 5 things I want to point out, but I'm likely not going to get into these, but there's some really, really good things that I want to talk about, as many as I can. 5 things, 5 ways that we can practice biblical waiting to make sure that we're consistently waiting on the Lord. Now watch this. So the very first thing is the one thing that we have to do first and foremost before we can go any further. When it comes to waiting on the Lord, we have to acknowledge that God is sovereign and in control of all things. That's the first. In the waiting process, we have to acknowledge that God is sovereign and in control of all things that transpires in our lives. In order to get a good waiting process going within our lives, we first need to acknowledge that God is sovereign, and nothing that we presently are experiencing is outside of his internal control or his power. Here's something that jumps out in Ecclesiastes 7:13. Watch what it says here. Ecclesiastes 7:13 and 14. It says, "Consider the work of God. Who can make straight what he has made crooked? In the day of prosperity, be joyful. And in the day of adversity, consider God has made the one as well as the other, so that the man may not find out anything that will be after him." So in other words, God controls the crooked situation, and he controls the straight situation. If you make something crooked, and then we can do about it, right? God made it crooked. all that we can do is accept the fact that God made this situation crooked, and if we're living the right way, and if we're working for him through waiting process, that he'll straighten it out, right? He'll straighten out that crooked situation that's in our lives. And the sooner we acknowledge that God is in control of everything, the better we can do the waiting process. Because often we try to take control of situations that we should not be trying to take control of. Often we try to get involved in things and fix things on our own that we should not be getting involved in. All we have to do is wait on the Lord. In other words, in the situation that you might be going through at the time, all that you should be doing is waiting on the Lord, and the Lord will work those things out for him. That's what Proverbs says, trust in the Lord with all thy heart, and lean not on thy own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall do what? Direct thy path. Not we shall direct our path. He will direct our path. So if you're trusting in him and waiting on him in that process, during that waiting process, you're doing your work for the Lord, then he will come in and intervene and do what he's supposed to do. Brother Bianca.
Yeah, because of Christians waiting for Jesus Christ, that's why he hasn't come back yet. Because he had to get each and every one of us to heaven. That's why he hasn't come back yet.
Yeah, yes,
Yeah.
Exactly. So the first thing we have to do, acknowledge that God is in control. Acknowledge that God is in control, right? In the waiting process, acknowledge that God is in control. In this situation, if there's a problem, God, you got this. You know what the problem was. You know what the situation was before it even came about, so I know that you're going to fix it. So I'm just going to wait on you. I'm going to trust in you. Acknowledge that you're in control of everything. There's nothing that I can do that you can't, obviously do. Imagine this, and we use the example of the waiter and waitress a number of times, or at least I did. Imagine, have you ever had a problem with your food? And, let's say it wasn't cooked right. Your steak wasn't cooked right. And you'll tell the waiter, my steak wasn't cooked right. Do you think that waiter is going to take your steak and go and recook that steak for you? No, it's the chef's job to recook that steak for you. It's not the waiter's job to intervene in reference to that. He has to let the chef, the one who's in control of cooking everything, take care of that. The waiter is going to continue to do his job, report it, but continue to do his job as a waiter or waitress, but let the chef do what they're supposed to do. That's like the Lord. The Lord is in control. He will fix that, that situation. We just have to do our job and let him do what he has to do and acknowledge that. Number one, acknowledge that God is in control of everything. That makes our waiting process so much more better because we get ourselves out the way. Tied into that, number two, watch this. We have to come to terms with us being 100% dependent on God. 100%. Once you come to terms that we are 100% dependent on God, it eases and it helps out the waiting process. It helps you to recognize that, one, as we said before, God is in control of everything. Two, we're 100% dependent on God. So even when we try to intervene, we need God. Even when we try to intervene, we ain't God. And most of the time when we try to intervene, we mess things up. Most of the time when we try to do things on our own, we mess things up. So we're 100% dependent on God. And in our waiting process, when we understand number one and number two, it makes it a lot bit better. Why? Because if you understand number one, that God is in control of everything, and number two, we're dependent on him 100%, you can focus on doing what you're supposed to do as a waiter. Right? What do you mean? All right, so if I'm not trying to fix this situation, right, I should be out there trying to save souls, keeping souls safe, but I'm trying to fix this mess that I got myself into. If I turn to God and recognize that God is in control and he's the one that can fix it, and all I should be doing is working and waiting on him and serving for him, I can do my job much better. But the fact that my mind is here, I'm not doing this. Because I'm on this situation right here, which he's in control of, I'm not able to wait on the Lord the way I'm supposed to wait on the Lord. In other words, I'm not serving the Lord and doing what I should be doing as a Christian. And too often, we as Christians, we as people, people of God do that. The situation, financial situation, life situation, bills, jobs, and all this other stuff, we start, dabbling all into that and, getting so entangled. And that's what the devil wants us to do, y'all. The devil wants us to work on these situations that we shouldn't be working on to take us away from waiting on the Lord. He wants us to. Recognize God is in control. Recognize the fact that we're 100% dependent on God, and our job is to wait on the Lord. And the more we do that, the more blessed we will be. Again, going back to Isaiah, it says, blessed on them. Blessed are those who wait on the Lord, who are serving on the Lord. Why? Because they're not so concerned about all the other nonsense that the devil wants us to be concerned with, and they're serving and waiting on the Lord the right way. Does that make sense? That makes a whole lot of sense to me. I'm sure it does to y'all as well. Again, referencing that waiter and a waitress. If your waiter and waitress is worrying about everything else but serving you, they're going to worry about getting that cigarette outside. They want to take a cigarette break. They're worried about texting. What's going on here? Oh, we going out tonight. They're worried about everything but serving you. How blessed are they going to be with the tip that you're going to give them? Not so much, right? Again, it's a simple reference, but I think it connects with us as Christians. Because if we're doing everything but serving and waiting on the Lord, how much blessings do you think the Lord is going to give to us? We serve a jealous guy, y'all. We serve a jealous guy. If we're not focused on him, he becomes very jealous, and he's not going to send his blessings our way. As I referenced, Proverbs 3 and 5, trust in the Lord. If you trust in the Lord with all their heart, and do not lean on your own understanding, but you acknowledge him, he will direct you and reference you when you do. But you got to first do number one. What's number one? Yes. And number two? There you go. I'm sorry, what was that? I thought I heard something. Number three. So after we recognize that God is in control of everything, and number two, recognize and come to the understanding that we're 100% dependent on God through our waiting process. Number three is we have to seek spiritual strength from the Lord. Seek spiritual strength in the Lord in the waiting process. Now, how does that relate to waiting on the Lord? Seeking spiritual strength from the Lord. I have an answer, right? I got a question. I'm going to answer in the back. Go ahead. How does that relate? Seeking spiritual strength in the waiting process.
Studying. Staying close to the church. Praying. Studying. Basically, this is what I'm in. I'm in this moment now, and I can't say, like I always say, I can't say I lost anything. And I know I could feel God peace. And it's like I'm walking, but I'm not walking. I could feel him carrying me. I haven't lost anything. I still have a roof, clothes. I go on trips with friends that treat me. So my prayer, when I pray, I do continually ask for strength, because we need the strength, internal and external, to wall off still the flesh that's in us that want to handle things on our own. Study just waiting on God. And what I do is, I know, Lord, I got to wait on you, because this girl right here will be, locked up or something, because that's how, sometimes your mind can go when you're going through certain storms that you didn't put on yourself. But Brother Washington got a sermon that is 3 types of storms. It's the storm from you, that's external from other people. It's internal, that storm is from you. And then you have a storm that God allows you to go through. And I believe this storm is the storm God is allowing me to go through to bring me closer back to him.
So, thank you for that. So it's interesting you saying that. So in the waiting process, and again, the waiting process is how often? Daily, right? The waiting process, we're waiting on the Lord daily. So in our waiting process, and waiting is again an act of serving the Lord. It's not stagnant. It's not waiting around, right? It's an act of constantly serving the Lord. In our daily waiting process, you're going to have highs and lows. You're going to have storms that you're going to go through. You're going to be in and out. They say either you're going through a storm, you're in a storm, or you're coming out of a storm, right? But in all three of those transitions, you got to consistently be waiting on the Lord. You should not stop waiting on the Lord. In a storm, out of a storm, going to a storm. Now, again, point number 3, it says that we should be seeking spiritual strength during this process. Why is that important that we seek spiritual strength in the waiting process? Well, it's as simple as this. During our waiting process, Satan is trying to beat us down. Satan is trying to destroy us. He has all those things that he's throwing at us. Think about Job, right? Job was a true waiter of the Lord. He was a true waiter of the Lord. And Satan got on him. Satan got on him. He got on him through death in terms of killing his kids dying and his servants. He got on him from a financial standpoint. He got him from an emotional standpoint with his wife. He got him on a health standpoint. But Job continued to wait on the Lord, but he got weak, right? He got weak in his waiting process because all of those situations came about. But you cannot stop waiting on the Lord. And that's why he's saying, while you're waiting on the Lord, you're going to run into situations, but it's important that you do number 3, is that you seek spiritual strength on the Lord. Because when things start to get heavy, as you're waiting on the Lord and you're focused on the Lord, when things start to get down and dirty, you're going to need the strength of the Lord to build you up and to keep you moving and keep you working and keep you on your path of waiting on Him. Because if we get too weak and we lose focus of God, we start to deter and we stop waiting. We stop waiting on Him. We start waiting for the devil, unbeknownst to that. Sister Jackson, and I have another hand over here.
A comment about Job. You mentioned Job, and I was just going to say that he continually still waited on the Lord. Just like when his wife came, he never lost his faith in his waiting on the Lord, because he hated the day he was born and all this and that other thing, but he never said that when his wife came to him and said, "You need to curse God and die." He said, "You speak like a crazy woman." Mm-hmm. He could have took that opportunity and said, "Well, maybe she's right. Why am I going through all of this? Maybe God ain't, but he's still waiting on the Lord."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point. I thought I see another hand. This is Tanya.
I was just going to say, as far as spiritual strength, Satan, he attacks us when we're vulnerable, when we are feeling downtrodden, and like Jesus, that's when he came after Jesus. When Jesus was very hungry, that's when Satan tried to attack Jesus. And that spiritual strength, which Scripture, that's strength right there. We can defeat Satan when he comes throwing these fiery darts at us with Scripture, with verses, with everything that's in our database. And that's the strength that we have to fight them off.
Absolutely. And I'm going to come over here, but let me, Sister Wood.
I just wanted to say, spiritual strength is studying the Scripture for yourself, and also you have to have people, your spiritual people, that will also lift you up when you're weak too. So you have to surround yourself with people as your spiritual strength as well. Yeah,
absolutely. In that waiting process, you have to continue to seek spiritual strength and build yourself up. Because if you don't, again, you're not going to do it. But we'll make our way over to you.
The scripture in the book of Philippians 4, and in verse number 6, it says, "Be careful for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known unto God. And the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus."
Yep.
Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and if be any praise,
Think on these things. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's a good point. So I want to come over here, George, because you had a hand up for a while. Go ahead, Brother Jackson.
Yes, sir. What I wanted to say is that sometimes we forget that part of our strength comes from we seek the wrong counsel. So we have to be careful of who we go to. Just like our sister said, sometimes we want to fix things and want to take it into our own hands.
Yeah.
And so we seek the counsel of the wrong people. And God said, you didn't get that from my mouth. You didn't come to me. You went to someone else. And so part of that strength that we have is understanding that when I have a problem, I need to take it to God because He's the one that can fix it.
Yeah.
Rather than someone that said, well, girl, if that was me, this is what I would do. And see, that's the wrong attitude to have if we're going to be seeking God's counsel and waiting on Him the way that we should wait.
Yeah. And we're talking, just for those, we're talking about waiting on the Lord and how to wait on the Lord, and then the benefits and the blessings that comes as a result of waiting on the Lord. And the point that we're at right now is seeking spiritual strength from the Lord during the waiting process. There's benefits of that. Go ahead, Sister Francis.
As you were speaking, I was looking in James chapter 5, verse number 7. It said, in reference to you were using the waiter and the waitress. This is an example. Be patient, therefore, brethren, unto the coming of the Lord. Behold, the husbandmen wait for the precious fruit of the earth, and have long patience for it, until he receive the early and the latter rain. Be also patient, establish your heart, for the coming of the Lord draweth near. Grudge not one against another brother, lest you condemn. Behold, the judge is standing before the door. Take, my brethren, the prophets who have spoke in the name of the Lord for the example of suffering, affliction, and of patience. Behold, we count them happy which endure. Ye have heard of the patience of Job, and have seen the end of the Lord, that the Lord is very pitiful and of tender mercy. I wanted to just read that because when I was thinking about Job and the example that Sister Wood give about surrounding yourself with good people, even Job going through his affliction, he has his friends, but they gave him the wrong advice. So when you strengthen yourself with people giving you the right example, you're going to make it. And like you said, good service, it's like planting a seed. You expect the watermelon to be good, and if you plant the right seed, it's going to come up right. So you're right, we have to surround ourselves and be patient for the waiting of the Lord, because He is coming. And as we live, that's what we're waiting for. The end is to go to heaven.
Yeah. And again, it's interesting that word waiting that we talk about is synonymous for the true meaning, well, the worldly meaning of waiting, right? Like when you're standing on a bus stop and you're waiting for the bus, you're just standing there waiting for the bus and not doing anything, but technically in a little sense, but you're just waiting for the bus. And again, we got to recognize that that's not the waiting that we're supposed to be doing as Christians. We're not waiting for God to come. We're not waiting on the Lord to come by just standing here doing nothing. The waiting, I keep emphasizing that so that we don't miss this, is a matter of servicing and services that we should be doing continuously, day in and day out, not stagnant. And then to emphasize that, you say, well, Brother Wood, what is waiting in the literal sense? Well, obviously service work. Well, what work should we be doing, right? From a waiting standpoint. And this is where you're talking about the studying. A lot of us is studying, which studying is good, but studying points out how you actually wait on the Lord, how you actually do the studying by doing, it says, therefore, as you have opportunity, do good unto everybody, all people, especially those of the household of faith. Well, you're doing good, right? You're helping those who are in need. You're teaching them about the word. You're blessing others. That's all service. That's things that God commanded us to do, and those are waiting actions that we should be doing. That's the waiting, right? That's the waiting in a storm that you should be doing. Looking to help other people, looking to grow, looking to spread his word, looking to build the church up. That's all waiting. That's all waiting. And in that process that you're going through, that's the waiting that we should be doing. And again, in point 3, seeking the Lord for spiritual strength, like I said, you're going to get beat down. We get tired, right? You're going to get tired. You're going to get tired of working, even for the Lord sometimes. I'm being honest with you. You're going to get tired. But he says, if you seek me, I'll give you that strength that you can continue to work the way you want to work when problems arise, when things happen. Think about this. How many of us, how effective are we on our job when we're tired? How effective are you on your job, your little job I'm talking about, when you're tired? You're not. You want to go take a nap. You're not working as much. You're taking a break every 15 minutes. I know. I know. We're not effective. We need strength. But when you get strength, sometimes when you go get that coffee break, all right, I'm going to get some coffee. And you come back, all right, I'm renewed. That's the literal sense of reference to getting strength from the Lord. When you just kind of say, well, let me just go and get some strength from him through his word, sometimes through other people, other spiritual people. That's why we're talking about surrounding ourselves with other people. That's when we get strength. And watch a couple of these scriptures right here that he gives us. In Psalms 33 and 20, it says, "O our souls, wait for the Lord. He is our help and our shield." Again, when we're waiting on the Lord, he'll give us that health and that strength and that shield and that protection that we need during this waiting process. Psalms 27:14 says, "Wait for the Lord, be strong, and let your heart take courage. Wait for the Lord." Again, you're working, and that's that process. And again, that's happened. You're getting that strength, not at the end, but during the entire process of your waiting on the Lord. It's not a I'm gonna wait on the Lord and then at this end process. No. As soon as you start waiting on the Lord, that's when the strength starts to come in. It starts to mount up. As soon as you start waiting on the Lord, he will give you that strength. Psalms 31:24. Time is it? I have to quit. "Be strong and let your heart take courage. And all you who wait for the Lord." Again, being strong and allowing his strength to take charge within you as we're waiting through this process, it's a blessing. And if we do those things, that's when the blessing comes in. I told you I'm not going to be able to get through all these, but it's essential that we do we really understand what the waiting process is all about and what the benefits of the waiting process are if we do it the right way. Because too often, in my opinion, a lot of us really did not know and didn't have a clear understanding of what waiting on the Lord is. A lot of them really didn't have that true understanding of what we must do from waiting on the Lord's standpoint.
When you were mentioning about waiting on the Lord, it makes me think of back in Genesis when God had told Abraham, first of all, leave where you're at. Follow a place where I'm going to show you. I'm going to make you a father of a great nation. But when he told him, you're going to have a son, his name was going to be Isaac. And how long, the Bible doesn't tell us how long altogether he waited. But Abraham stayed faithful and waited. And I'm sure, remember Sarai wanted him, you lay down, go ahead and lay down with my handmaiden, thinking that would help make the thing. But God's letting him know, that's not the way I wanted it. It's going to be with Isaac. But it showed that Abraham stayed steadfast. He did not waver. He stayed faithful to God, and God finally rewarded him and everything. But then the second trial was where after the child reached a certain age, he said, I want you to sacrifice him. Now that probably blew him out of his mind, that he wanted him to sacrifice his own son. But he still followed God no matter what, because he had faith.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Good point. Good point. And the last thing I'm just going to touch upon, then I'm going to wrap it up. I just want to throw this one out. And during the waiting process, an essential thing that we must do to be effective in the waiting process is to refrain from needless fear and worry. In your waiting process, get away from, refrain, stop all that, having all that fear and worry in your waiting process. Because fear and worry will stop you from waiting. Because you can't wait and be fearful at the same time. It's a deterrent. That fear and worry, again, think about your job, right? If you're fearful and worrisome at your job, how effective are you going to be? You're not paying attention to what you're supposed to be doing. You're not effectively doing your job the right way because you're looking over your shoulder because you're so fearful, right? Your fearful and worry will deter you from being effective at your waiting process. Fear is a, and we studied upon this a couple months ago, but fear is a big deterrent and big destroyer of our faith, right? Fear and faith, someone says fear is faith in the opposite direction, right? Fear is faith in the opposite direction. So if faith within our waiting process makes us an effective waiter, right? Because we believe that the reward and the blessings that the Bible says is going to come as a result of us waiting. And if we have strong faith within our waiting process, again, we're going to be we're going to be a great waiter. But if we're fearful and have lack of faith, we're going to be a terrible waiter or waitress. So you have to take that fear out of that waiting process if you're going through that. And a lot of times the devil wants us to be fearful. He wants us to be worrisome. He wants us to be distracted because he knows that we're not going to be great waiters in that process. And it's really that simple. It's really that simple. A lot of times we say, why am I not growing? Why am I not receiving the blessings that I think I should be receiving? Well, do a self-examination. Ask yourself, how good of a waiter or waitress am I to the Lord? And have I been on a day in and day out basis? And that will tie into your blessings. It's like a waiter and a waitress going home at the end of the day. They get up they start counting up all their tips, right? And then start counting all that money, and someone will say, "Man, I was great today, and look all my blessings here." And some have a couple pennies, a couple nickels, like, "Oh, what happened?" Well, you weren't good. Your waiting process was not good. That's how we are as Christians, right? You can almost mount up, the blessings that come our way tied to our actions as Christians and our waiting process as Christians. It's really that simple.
Just one thing, mindset. We just need to really change our mindset. Even like you're using the example about a good waitress and a bad waitress. It's the mindset. It's how you treat people that they're going to respond. So if we're waiting on God, we need to change our mindset.
That's a good point. I'm going to end off that one by saying this. The Bible says, as a man thinketh in his heart. Don't leave that part out. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And for you to be an effective waiter for the Lord, you got to believe it. If you don't believe that you're capable of being an effective waiter for the Lord, your actions are not going to follow that. You're not going to believe it, so therefore you're not going to do it. So you have to build that up in your mind that, I can, regardless of all that's going on around me, regardless of the situations and the circumstances, I believe I can be a great waiter for the Lord. And once you start to believe that, the actions will follow. And that's what we have to be. That's a good point. In our minds, it starts up here. I don't know where you're at in this lesson, but I pray that it has not fallen on deaf ears. I pray that you will do a self-examination and ask yourself, how effective have I been when it comes to waiting on the Lord? How effective have I been when it comes to serving and waiting on the Lord? And if your answer is that I haven't been doing a great job, I pray that you will, repent of that. Turn from that lackluster waiting process that you've been doing for the Lord and aim to be the best waiter that there can be as a Christian. Set your goals and set your mark for such a high achievement of being a great waiter for the Lord. And I know your blessings will come as a result of that. If you're not a Christian, Well, unfortunately, you're not hired to be a waiter for the Lord. You're outside and on the unemployment line. And you need to come in and get hired by the Lord. And the only way you can get hired by the Lord is by being added to his church. The only way you can be added to his church is through hearing his word, believing his word, repenting of your sins, confessing his holy and divine name, and being buried in the watery grave of baptisms. Then you'll be added to God's church and hired as a holy servant for the Lord to work and wait on him day in and day out. And then the blessings will flow as a result of that. And it's really as simple as that. And you have that opportunity now to step forward, to be added to God's church in his holy kingdom. And if you are, again, standing in need of prayer, if you want repentance, if you want prayer upon some situations that you're going through, you may come forward at this time of either category as we stand and sing a song of invitation.
Have you been to Jesus for the cleansing power? Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb? Are you fully trusting in his grace this hour? Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb? Are you washed in the blood, in the soul cleansing blood of the Lamb? Are your garments spotless? Are they white as snow? Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb?
We have several members who are standing at this time. We're going to ask you to state your name and state what's on your heart and your mind at this time, starting with Sister
Jones.
Hi, I sinned. I asked God for forgiveness of my sins. I ask you to pray for me and my husband at home.
Amen. Sister Terry.
Brothers and sisters, I confess that I have sinned and I repent of my sins. I ask for God to forgive me and y'all to continue to pray for me. At least one of the cases is over. I got 2 more to go. And just continue to keep praying for my strength and just keep praying for me and my kids.
Amen. Brother Roy
Sister
Johnson.
Butler.
Brothers and sisters, I'm coming before you asking for prayers. I'm facing some difficulties. My furnace warranty ended last week and the furnace died yesterday. And I'm dealing with this company and they're not very helpful. So just pray for me that I will maintain my Christianity the right way because I'm a little upset with them. And I just ask that you continue to pray for me. I did go for one of my appointments, 2 of them, one for the kidney, and right now they're just waiting. They want me to wait for a while so we can run tests later on, but right now they don't see any immediate danger. And secondly, with the dental from the accident, pray for me because I have to undergo therapy for that as well. Thank you so much and continue to pray for my family.
Brother Roy Johnson.
I'm just asking for prayer. I've sinned, I've repented of sin, and I pray that God will give me the strength, the wisdom, and the knowledge to wait on him before I do things.
Brother Jones.
I sinned, I repent of my sins. I pray that the Lord forgive me. Pray that the church would pray for me and my wife as we pray for the church. And I pray my children will come back to church. And that's it. Thank you.
Sister Shirley Trent.
Brothers and sisters, I have sinned and I've repented of those sins. God knows I'm struggling in some areas and I need prayer. I want to thank God for his continued blessings and his grace and mercy. I want to ask you all to continue to pray for my kids that have fallen back into the world. My son is sick and he may have had a stroke. And I want to ask you to please continue to pray for him. He's now trying to care for his 13-year-old daughter, who is more than a handful. She's a blessing, but she's more than a handful. She's struggling. So pray for me and my family, and pray that I can continue my walk, continue to let my light shine, and that I will continue with the mindset of going to heaven so that I will do the right things.
Amen.
Sister Hart, give me a second.
I just want to publicly thank God for all his mercy and his grace that he's given us as a family. He helped me. I was worried about something that occurred at work, and after I prayed on it, I just let it in his hands, and it ended up that my manager gave me praise instead of a reprimandation. And so I thank him for that. And I also asked the church to pray that next Thursday I have a procedure, and I want to ask the church for your prayers that the procedure goes well and it does what it's supposed to do in regards to my health. Thank you.
Amen.
Sister Jones, once again.
Also, my love is being tempted, so please pray that I know how to handle it.
Have we overlooked anyone? We certainly want to let everyone make sure that our prayer request for everyone is being acknowledged. We want to pray for those who are going through various issues in their lives. We also want to make sure we're keeping Brother Michael Graves in our prayers as well. As mentioned, he had an emergency procedure that was done today. I don't have any full details in terms of what his status is right now, but his wife had called into the church and let us know that he had a procedure that was done today, so he will not be here. He was not here today. He was supposed to be scheduled to teach this class tonight. He's supposed to be scheduled to teach on Sunday morning, but he will not be here Sunday morning either. So let's certainly make sure that we're doing our part as far as sending up the prayer requests for a speedy recovery for him. And I'm asked Brother Weston Payton to prepare his mind for the prayer request that was laid before you. Also, please pray for Sister Debbie Russell. This was handed to me. Debbie Russell, who is in the emergency room. The doctors think she had a stroke in the eye. She's been very sick for some time, so this is a sister here at Newark, so certainly keep her in our prayers as well. I have a couple quick announcements, then we'll be dismissed. On this upcoming Sunday, Brother Emmanuel Mensah will be preaching here Sunday morning. He will be preaching for the first time in a while. He's sort of been in and out. He was scheduled to come and preach last month, I believe it was, but he ended up with COVID, and that derailed his preaching, let's call it re-debut for him. But he'll be here on this Sunday. We're going to encourage everyone to come on out and encourage this preacher as he comes and preaches back to us again. Dr. Lane will be preaching here on the following Sunday, October 16th, and will be teaching the adult class. He is opening his schedule up for counseling services on next Saturday from 1 to 4, Sunday from 2 to 6, and Monday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Please call the church office to make an appointment. And let me say that he has been extremely helpful for those who have been utilizing his services. They are there for us to utilize. If you feel as though that you need some type of counseling, whether it's mental counseling, health counseling, bereavement counseling, marital counseling, he is very equipped to do all of that. So utilize these services while they're here. The clothing giveaway is this Saturday, October the 8th, 2022. It will start at 9 a.m. We're asking the Benevolence Ministry to meet downstairs on tomorrow at 10 a.m. To prepare and set up for Saturday morning. On Saturday morning, the ministry is asked to arrive at 8 a.m. for the 9 a.m. start time. That's 8 a.m. on Saturday morning. Anyone who is interested in becoming a part of this ministry or just want to help out is more than welcome to join. I am soliciting as many brothers to come out on Saturday morning for security, to make sure that everything is, ran the way it's supposed to be ran, and nobody is getting out of line. So as many brethren as possible, please come out on Saturday morning at 8 a.m. To help out with this ministry. The Widows Luncheon is next Sunday, October the 16th at 2 p.m. It'll be at the Holiday Inn North Hotel. We're asking non-widowers to plan to attend this luncheon and buddy up with a widow. You'll be paired up before the luncheon to sit with and encourage them at the luncheon. The meal is complimentary for widows and the $35 cost for any non-widow. The deadline to register and to make your menu selection is Sunday, October the 9th. Please register with Sister Mickey Teller, Henrietta Green, or Tanya Jones. Sister Mickey Teller is in charge of this event. And the last announcement is Sister Fanny Broughton called the church office to inform us that she will be moving to Chester, Virginia at the end of this month to live with her daughter. She can no longer live alone and wants us to know that she will miss the North Church of Christ very, very much. And we wish Sister Broughton well as she goes through this relocation process. We love that sister. She's been a great and dedicated member of the church for many, many years. So let's keep her in our prayers as she makes this transition. That's all the announcements that I have. Let us all stand to be dismissed without a song selection at this time.